Are we live? Maybe, maybe.
I'm checking. I think we are. We're on here.
Hooray!
Hooray, technology. Hey, friends. If you're joining us
Everybody.
now, thank you so much for popping in to what is our first, basically live with Trans Northland conversation. So we're glad you're joining us. If you're able to pop in now on your lunch break while you're grabbing that extra cup of coffee to make it through the afternoon. This is a new thing that we are going to be offering every other Wednesday at noon. These will be an hour-long conversation where we will be joined by different community members. We're going to talk about upcoming events and ways for folks to connect deeper into community and really just try to stay connected in this crazy time that we are all surviving through together. So I am Sean Hayes. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm the executive director here at Trans Northland. And I'm very excited to be joined by my friend and board chairperson, Heather. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to them so they can give a little intro about who they are.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Sean, for that intro. I'm Heather Thonvold. My pronouns are they, them, and I currently serve as the board chair of Trans Northland. And I'm really, really excited to hear, I don't know, maybe some fun things to know about me. I feel like my resume is probably like one of the most interesting things about me. So maybe I'll go, my favorite is an ankylosaurus, which is the one that has like the big tail that smashes stuff. My favorite flavor of ice cream is Rocky Road. If I could go anywhere on vacation for like just a random vacation, I would go to the Oregon coast, my happy place. I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally. And yeah, there. Those are three fun facts about me that folks I think it's important. And I also really enjoy Legos. So that's another fun fact about me.
I love this intro so much, Heather. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Yeah,
join us. You have been an incredible addition to our Trans Northland team, and I'm just like really
thank
excited
you.
to have this convo with you. And look, even representing, love it.
Yep.
Get your own trans merch at our online store, which is
Yeah,
on our
you should.
website.
The inside of this sweatshirt is so cozy.
So
I'm gonna be like
cozy.
everybody should own one.
Yes. Well, one of our first little segments in these upcoming conversations is going to be focused on gender euphoria
Hmm.
because life is so hard right now and it's so easy to focus on all the negatives. And if y'all know me, you might know that I really try to find and create joy in these times because it is what personally keeps me going. And so, yeah, I want to hand it back to you, Heather. Is there a recent moment or, something that happened, in your life where you just like really felt a deep sense of gender euphoria?
Yeah, so which is a wonderful question. It's great to talk about because I agree that it's hard. Like there are moments where life feels like pretty normal, pretty easy, and then there are moments when like I often will open news apps on my phone and I'm thinking, why did I do this? Because kind of feels like everything's on fire. But anyway, my moment, well, it's been a kind of a series of moments of gender euphoria over the last like week or two. Is I recently started a new job. Like they've been really wonderful and intentional about um like using my correct pronouns and making sure that and the other thing of that there's like one person in particular who is just like anytime somebody makes a mistake that loudly so that number one, I don't have to do it, and number two, other people kind of get the memo, I guess. And so it's it's been like wonderful that the community has been very intentional, but also really kind of funny when um, kind of gets a little not so subtle correction from an ally, somebody who isn't part of the trans community or even part of the LGBTQ community, but like for them to just kind of take that upon themselves. And they also were like, is that okay with you? And I'm like, yes, that is fine. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Like, this has been great. So, yeah, so there's been like multiple moments kind of over the last couple of weeks where that's happened, but like every time it kind of makes me giggle inside a little bit that somebody is willing to do that on my behalf. It makes me feel very cared for.
That is such a good one. I know we talked briefly about that before we went live, and there's so many things I love about that. I mean, because it is so affirming, right? When people are actually like making an effort to use correct pronouns, to use our correct names,
Yeah.
in those spaces, especially like in our jobs. I think a lot of
Yeah.
us, it's like we worry about potentially losing our jobs if we speak up or, what that might mean for us. And then the other part I think I really like is that that person was like, is this okay with you? Like that I do this?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's lots of us who are like, we would call that out on our own. Actually, it's they, them, or actually, it's
Yeah.
Sean. Please call me Sean. But a lot of folks may not feel that, like, that they have that ability to call that
Yeah.
person out in the moment. And so then for an ally of all people, we need you right now more than ever. And so yeah, I just love that they checked in with you and y'all are on the same page about that moving forward.
And the other thing I think has been really cool is pretty much everybody that I've met, which has been a lot of people in the last couple of weeks, um, has like when we're, doing meetings or anything like that, everybody starts introductions with, "Hi, I'm so and so, and these are my pronouns." This is so great. Like it's one of those things that I don't often experience, and it just makes me feel really welcome. And I know that I'm not the only person that that applies to, but it's just it's great. And there's a lot of folks who have members of their family who are younger and they're kind of figuring out who they are. And they're just like having somebody like you who's visible in our community has been a tremendous gift for our young people because they can see a grown up who is able to that conversation and all of that. So that's been really affirming as well. So I've had lots of little moments of gender euphoria in the last couple of weeks. So it's been really cool.
I love that so much because I feel like there are constantly those moments of euphoria for us as trans folks and also like joyful, like silver lining kind of moments that are easy to let slip by. But then when I've been able to sort of like notice those and be like, "Ooh, I really want to be present in this. I'm not thinking about the news or politics or whatever." It just literally like refills my soul is what it feels like. So yeah, thanks again
Absolutely.
for sharing that. And so transitioning a little bit into our next topic,
Did there.
I know you I know you recently shared a pic or two or a couple, of being out in the woods. And we are, I think finally experiencing this season change, right? Moving from summertime to fall, my favorite. I love it so much. And so, yeah, what's it feeling like for you so far? Are you a fall person? Are you excited to be out in the woods?
Yeah.
Or what do you look forward to this time of year?
Yeah. So I don't know how to say this. Like I don't like summer. I never really have. I don't like being hot. And so fall and spring are like it kind of when it's like, we're just coming out of summer into fall, fall is my favorite season. And then when we're coming out of winter into spring, spring is my favorite. So I guess it depends when you ask me. But yeah, like I also my spouse will tell you that like the only basic thing about me is my love of pumpkin spice lattes. And so there's always been kind of this funny joke about us and pumpkin spice things. And the last so I'll tell a quick story about fall. So um back in 2020, when the pandemic was going on and everything was just like no one had a leg to stand on. Like everything was constantly changing. It was just a really stressful time. I was working in healthcare at the time as a chaplain and still going to work and providing care for folks. And it was just a really difficult time for a lot of people. And so my spouse and I came up with the idea that we should go to grocery stores, buy as many pumpkin spice flavored things as we could find, and then do like a live stream tasting video. And so that has turned into an annual thing. So at some point in the fall, once we gather enough pumpkin spice flavored things, we'll do like a Facebook Live thing where our friends can join us. And, it started just back in 2020, and then like 2021, people were like, are you doing that again?" And we were like, "Oh, we're really planning on it, but sure, why not?" And then 2022, are you going to do that again? And so it's become an annual thing. So we've been slowly gathering pumpkin spice flavored things for the last few weeks, but there's not a lot we haven't tasted. This is the fifth time that we've done it. And so yeah, so that's one like super random kind of dorky, stupid that we do at our house that we that we really enjoy, and a lot of our friends look forward to it as well. The other thing that I really enjoy doing, in addition to just kind of generally being outside, but I grew up in Washington, and hunting was a big part of that growing up with my dad and my uncle and my brother. And so so that's what I've been up to the last couple weeks, is getting like my tree stand set up because it's black bear season right now. And then let's see, pheasants and other birds start sometime mid-October, and then deer opener, like I think it's the 8th and 9th this year of November. So yeah, so that's something that I I'm really mindful of like when talking, especially to like trans folks who like being outside, because I think there's a lot of folks who want to get into, whether it's hunting or whether it's just being outside more, but not really feeling safe to do that. Because a lot of times it involves, being in sometimes secluded locations, sometimes by yourself, and stuff like that, which can be a little bit scary. And so I'm hoping that more folks from our community especially can find those pockets of safety where they can go in the outdoors. And whether you're a hunter or whether you just like being outside, if you like going fishing, whatever that looks like for you, I hope that especially folks in our community can find some ways to be able to do that safely, because we always want to make sure that we're being safe, regardless of what the activity is. But yeah, so those are a couple of things that I enjoy doing, especially in the fall. And then, as winter moves, like comes a little bit closer, uh my hobbies tend to kind of shift more towards like inside stuff like crocheting and building Legos with my nephew and stuff like that. So but for right now, I'm all about being outside because it's fun. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Heather. Yeah, I love what you were saying there at the end too about like just encouraging folks to try to get outside, and yet, that can be scary. If you don't have a buddy or you're not really sure where to go. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, I've lived in Duluth, this area, for probably 20 plus years. And there are still some parks that I have yet to go to, actually, a lot. I feel slightly embarrassed. I'm kind of a bad Duluthian. But it reminded me just this past Saturday that we, got to team up with a community member. Shout out to Rose and Shan and Goose, their dog, who led us on like a queer botany outing. And not only was it like sort of the first kind of thing like that we've planned as an organization, but like I know nothing about plants or growing them or what they are. I like to see pretty flowers, and I will, walk with my kiddo and point out, oh, look at that cute little purple flower, and no clue what it is, but It was such a cool experience because I was so like, I was the noob, and then there were like 11 other queer and trans, like botany interested, sciency people who literally we would just like walk through the woods and like talked about flowers. And literally at the end of that, I was just like, nature is so queer in all the ways. And so, yeah, and just, thinking about that fear of going out and whatnot, Trans Northland has really been trying to um, plan more types of community gatherings and things like that. And I'm already in talks with Rose to lead another one. We're probably going to organize another queer botany outing maybe in the beginning of October. So stay tuned. If you are not following us on Facebook or Instagram or getting our newsletter in your email, you should do that because there's going to be so many cool opportunities to get outside and with other queer folks and safe allies. So, thanks again for talking about that. Fall for me, I think, and I'll just briefly share, I love to take drives by myself. It's sort of a self-care thing, and I love to drive up the scenic North Shore route there. And I'll get out at certain points and spend time by the lake. But I'm so excited because I'm starting to see leaves changing, and which also in the back of my brain is like, winter is coming. No, but also it's so pretty. And I was
Yeah.
recently telling my daughter that the red and orange colors are my personal favorites. So we are always now looking for the leaves. Oh, there's some, or driving to school. And yeah, I love fall. It's my favorite. So yeah, but I was thinking too, Heather, and for everybody who's watching or tuning in, we're kind of trying to figure out what this show or conversation looks like as we're developing it. Real time, we're building the plane as we're flying it, so to speak. But Heather, you have I think you mentioned it earlier, like you do have such an interesting sort of background and experience with so many things kind of related to mental health and spirituality and just like wholeness and well-being and safety. So I would love for you to just share a little bit more about that, those things that you know and do and, practices or things that you might be able to share with some of our folks to take home with them.
Yeah, and what a great topic to talk about. So, um, I think that all of those things that you mentioned are kind of essential pieces of who we are as people. And um, whether you're uh somebody who has a really large community or a large network of support, or whether you're somebody who maybe doesn't, maybe your network or those folks in your life who are supportive are maybe you don't have quite as many people as you would like. I think one of the things that's been really important, especially for me, and I know for a lot of folks at this particular time, is finding your people, whatever that looks like, whatever feels safe. Um, we all need community in some way, whether that's an online community of folks that you meet via Zoom or whether it's in person. But I think that if you're able to find people who are able to affirm who we are and accept us and we can just be ourselves, I think at least for me personally, that's one of the biggest self-care pieces of just kind of my general overall well-being that I can personally think of. I'm really I find myself, thanking my lucky stars every day that I have a super supportive spouse, that I've got, family members and friends who love and care about me, and they not only love and care about me, but they advocate for me. They make sure that, like even for example, when my spouse and I when we're out and about, if I need to go use the restroom, like default is as always like, do you want me to come with you? And just really small kind of pieces like that that number one make me feel safe and cared for, but number two, it also acknowledges that that other person understands that maybe my experience of the world is a little bit different than maybe maybe somebody who is gender or uh, doesn't maybe outwardly present as kind of openly queer. And so that like those things I think really really important to find your people and find your community. And shameless plug, if you don't know how to do that, hook up with Trans Northland because we've got, like Sean was talking about earlier, there's a lot of events and a lot of ways that the organization provides that community for folks who maybe you're new to town, maybe you know you're not out in certain aspects of your life, or whatever that looks like. If you're searching for a community of folks who will accept you and hold you, I think that there's a lot of ways that you can connect through Trans Northland to a lot of different folks who are going to be affirming of who you are, and that's super important. So my professional background, I was a healthcare chaplain for about a little over a decade, about 12, 13 years now. And one of the things that I always like to talk to people about with regard to self-care, is the fact that people conflate like spirituality with religion, and those two are not necessarily the same thing. Some people might consider them in their own, personal practice. They could be synonymous, but um, the when I encourage people to find a spiritual practice that's meaningful for you, it doesn't need to be any sort of religion, be connected with any sort of um, deity or external forces or anything like that. It's just a practice that you find uplifting or that really speaks to you, that really that you find meaning in, and you can define meaning, in a number of different ways. So for some people, that could be going to church or a mosque or a synagogue to be part of a religious community. For other people, it could be something as simple as having a journaling practice. For others, it could be, taking 5 minutes to do some breathing or some meditation. And so, trying out those different practices and seeing what works for you, I think is really important. I'm somebody who, depending on the day, I may not necessarily feel like sitting down and journaling, but I might want to, for a walk, and do some breathing, walking, or things like that. So, get creative. I always tell people, I'm like, there's no rule book for what that looks like for you. If it's meaningful to you, then go for it. And so I think that that's one piece that a lot of folks, especially in the trans and in the queer community in general, um, kind of tend to shy away from calling something religious or calling something spiritual, because in the past, and even currently, there have been a lot of us who have been harmed in some way by either a religious professional, community, people, churches, whatever that looks like. And so they tend to not use that language. And so I find that the language around what's meaningful for you is a lot more helpful, because it can kind of clear the way of some baggage or maybe some things that we've experienced in the past that may cause us to fall. And so find something that's meaningful for you, and that brings you joy. Like when Sean was talking, wanting to have to have moments of euphoria or moments of joy. Um, those things are they're so important, because when we're kind of devoid of joy and we don't experience that like ever, that can really have a detrimental effect just in general on your personhood and how you feel, the way that you interact with others. And it's not manufactured thing like I'm going to be happy all the time, every day. No, that's not. We all experience the ups and downs, but I do think that that the way somebody can, for example, like uh, start a gratitude journal and write down like three things every day that you're grateful for, in the midst of maybe some not so other good things that are going on. It's been very rare in my life, at least, where every single thing in my life has been going magnificently or perfectly or exactly as I thought it, or better than I thought it would, or whatever. Like, it's been rare that every single aspect of all been like and so it's really important to focus on those things that are going well, and that we can say, okay, like this, maybe work was terrible today, or work has been terrible for the last week, but I'm really finding a lot of my dog at night when I get home from work or things like that. And so it's not it's not positivity that I think some people are kind of prone to, but it really is about what's personally meaningful for me, what brings me joy, what helps me feel the most whole, what helps me feel grounded, what makes me feel safe and loved, and all of those different things. So as far as you know and things like that, I think that there's kind of a, I don't know, let's say a stigma, but there's an element of self-care that we're able to do ourselves. There's also something that I was reminding folks, especially during the pandemic when I was working, is that you can't self-care way out of toxic systems. So, like, if your workplace is really, really unhealthy, and or maybe friendships, your family, or whatever it looks like, self-care that we have to say not life-giving or meaningful. This is not bringing me joy, um, or whatever that, and be willing to either find around if you can't maybe leave that situation, or find a work environment, whatever that looks like. But I think that there's an element of we can self-care for ourselves what we can, but then there's also some other symptoms and things that it's being aware, and wanting to kind of mitigate those. So, like, for example, instead of sitting down on the couch and eating ice cream, or curling up in the fetal position after I read the news, things like that I might want to do, might walk my garden, or just that kind of thing. Make myself a cup of coffee or whatever that looks like. But I think that there's an element of that toxic positivity mindset that says, oh, you can self-care your way out of anything. And it's like, I don't think that's true. I think that there are some ways that we can use good self-care. And then also on top of that, it's hard to do that when the system that you're part of doesn't really allow you to have the space to thrive and to do that. And so yeah, so those are some thoughts I think about, spirituality, about self-care, about some other things. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I feel like you shared so many amazing points in all of that that I'm like, I could go so many different ways with this. Um, and I guess what's on my mind when it comes to like, yeah, how do I take care of myself in these moments where literally if I think too much about the current state of our country and of the world, it's like so overwhelming and like has this sort of like freezing thing that happens in my body, where I can feel that physically, in me. And so some of the practices that I have been sort of learning and practicing have literally just been like sort of the basic kind of things to like stay alive as a human. Like drinking water. You may see me doing this. I hate it. I don't like drinking water at all, but they say it's good for me, and I do actually like feel a difference when I am staying hydrated versus when I'm not, and like other things, like I'm a person who I will just like sit down and start a task, and then it's like 3 hours later, and I'm like, oh man, it's like 2:30 and I haven't eaten anything. Oftentimes it's like, well, I could push through. I'll just wait, until dinner. And it's like, no, I've been trying to sort of practice stopping and going to grab a snack or a protein shake or, something, right? Something easy for my ADHD self to easily grab that takes 2 seconds. But, things like that where it's like, I'm not in a healthy sort of routine with eating regular meals and those types of things I would think in my brain are basic, right? But I think a lot of us struggle with those basics. I feel like I'm kept alive by caffeine and coffee like for most of my days these days. And so just, thinking about that, I hear mentors and like friends in the back of my brain where I'm like, I'll notice that I'm kind of feeling crappy or whatever, something I'm feeling down. And, I hear Sarah Curtis in the back of my brain saying, have you drank water? Have you eaten food? Have you taken a shower? Uh, and usually the answer is probably not any of those things. And I'll do one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So I just think, there's so much that can be said about like how much better we can feel when we are actually like taking care of our physical bodies. And I think like, being aware of our nervous systems is a part of that as well. Like I practice Tai Chi, I practice different types of breathing techniques, right? Especially in those moments where I'm overwhelmed, where I can feel myself frozen or wanting to flee, or like literally just drive away for my life and start fresh. And it's like when I can think to do those practices, it literally has like that physical impact on my body, and then my brain is able to like come out of that, sort of crazy feeling, reactive survival brain that we all go to, and I feel like are kind of stuck in 24/7 these days. And then I'm also thinking about a conversation I literally just had this morning with my bestie Kia, and she has done two, I think she said, cold plunges in Lake
Mm.
Superior. And I was like, are you becoming one of those people? And, giving her a hard time. But, she was explaining to me how energized she felt. And that is exactly what I've heard from other folks who do cold plunges. And, I have family members who do it every day, and they've been talking to me about the health benefits. And, so it's like what you said, like find something, right, that helps in any way. I can't think of who it is in my life, but someone, maybe my friend Crystal, but someone is always saying, like, what is like one thing you could do to make yourself feel 5% better, 5% more comfortable, 5% more rested, I mean, and um, yeah, like it is the little things I think that can get us through. Um,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
so
there have been quite a few times when taking a break from work and I'm like, oh, why do I feel like crap right now? And then I'm like thinking back and I'm like, oh, it's been probably 3 or 4 hours since you had something to drink. You didn't eat breakfast this morning. You've had like 3 cups of coffee and you didn't drink water when you got up, but you haven't had any since. Maybe start with one of those things, like you said, and then and you can kind of move on. So if I'm like irritable or whatever, I used to hate when she would do this, but my spouse would be like, when was the last time I had a snack? And I'm like, don't treat me like a child. And then I was like, hmm, yep, actually you're right. So that's probably within the first couple of years of our marriage. I was like, oh, she's not trying to be me. She's literally just being like, I've missed this, maybe eat something. And I feel like my life is one of those Snickers commercials, where they have like I don't even remember what the slogan, but it's like the mean person and then they eat a Snickers and then they're the nice person. That's probably so.
Oh man, I remember those commercials. It's like have a Snickers and chill the F out, basically. I feel
Basically,
like
yeah, basically.
Betty White, maybe Betty White might have been in a couple of them.
Yep, she was. Yeah, she was in one of those.
Oh man, yeah. It's wild. And I think you mentioned this and like, this story of your partner, right? It's like there is this component where each of us individually, right? Like we are the only ones who like know what is actually going on inside of us, what we're feeling, what we're thinking about, what we're worried about, and so self-care, right, is that part of us. Like that's our responsibility as an individual in community, right? But then there is this like community care aspect that I think, I've experienced more of in like maybe the last 2, 3 years of my life than I have in a long, long time. And it is hard. It's really hard to like build relationships with people in community and then like get to the point where you're like, y'all, we got to take care of each other. We got to be checking in on each other. We got to be sharing about cold plunges and asking, have you drank water or eaten a granola bar lately? And I think that part is something that communities, especially I would say white communities, have a lot of work to do about like sort of reconnecting and remembering how to be in community in ways that are affirming and supportive and also like accountable when we cause harm or like we hurt someone's feelings and you know um there's something there that I definitely don't have figured out yet, but it's like, when we think about this current moment, I mean, I'm constantly being like talking about it being the apocalypse, because it does feel so scary, I think, at times, and I feel so enraged and worried, right, about what the future may hold for our community, for the larger LGBTQ plus community, for immigrant communities, right? For all of the folks of color communities um, who are sort of the targets of this current administration. Um, and it just feels like this is a moment where communities really need to be coming together, acknowledging that maybe like every person here in the Northland community who is trans or two-spirit or gender expansive, non-binary, like we may all disagree about a lot of things. Um, we may not all like each other. I mean, if I'm just being real, right? Like, not everybody's going to be BFFs, and that's okay, right? Like, we don't have to have that in this community. But I think there are like the deeper values around interconnection, supporting one another, right? Like, I may not want to show up to a certain kind of event, but I still want other folks to know about that event, right? Because it may be their jam and it's just not mine, right? So I can support other folks in community doing their things, right? And encourage folks to connect in those different ways. Um, but yeah, like
I would just
I'm
like to
curious what
note
you
that I was gonna say I would just like to note that I would be open doing a cold plunge, but I would not be excited about it. So
that's right. I
that
literally
that
said
doesn't that
that.
doesn't feel like it would be like my jam. But you know what? I would be open to trying it. But yeah,
Totally. Right? I know. I
as
said the same.
yeah,
Yep, I
as my
said the
friend
same thing.
Kathleen, friend Kathleen reminds me every now and then. We're be willing to be willing, and that's her phrase that she used to say to me all the time. Just be willing to be willing, and that just means like I'm willing to just kind of see what happens in this moment and try and force things or not try and like change stuff or make it something different. But I'm just willing to be willing to be here to hang around to whatever. But so I would be willing to try that, but I would not be excited about it. So I'm trying not to
Same.
yuck someone else's yum. So, yeah,
I love that. I love that phrase. Don't yuck someone else's yum. I love that. And I use that myself. Yeah, I mean, I'd be
Dan.
curious to, Heather, what you think too about like, the current moment, all of the hate, all of the legislation coming for us, like ICE agents, right? Like our communities are stressed to the max, for good reason. And I know there's lots of folks out there who would say, y'all just overreacting. And those are the people who will just always say that, right? But they're not actually being impacted by any of this stuff, or they may not know someone, right? They don't have a family member who's queer, or they don't have immigrant parents, or, whatever it is. But, like, I just always think our communities are so powerful when we come together because there's so many of us, right? Like it's overwhelming to me when I like sit back and think about even just like here in Duluth, Superior area, like all of the queer trans folks who are doing good, important work, right? And not anything related to Trans Northland, right? Like everyone is doing these really cool things. They're creating opportunities for connection. And like, yeah, how do you see us building that like community stronger so that we can show up, and defend our community if need be?
Yeah, I think that that's great. I would probably write about it and make a lot of money, but I don't know the answers. So I will share some thoughts. Um, first of all, as we're able to for marginalized communities in whatever way it's like in whatever way is safe. So one of the things that I know a lot of folks in the queer community will will say, or that I've heard especially in the last, probably 6 months or so, is a big push for when folks know there's going to be like a queer event. So whether it's something as simple as like, a bar league softball game, or whether it's something like a convention or, an event hosted by Trans Northland or whatever that looks like. One of the things that I think is really important, especially if it's, if it's like a public event where a lot of people could be gathering, the just the importance of allies showing up, to add their support and to add that safety in numbers, I think is really important. So I'm not saying that, allies for every queer event that happens, because they may not necessarily be open to non-LGBTQIA plus members, depending on what the event is, but especially those large public gatherings. So, even like Pride Night at the Twins game or whatever, like if you're an ally, go to that on that night, and show your support. And so I think that that's one huge thing that I think adds, number one, it adds weight to the support that we feel, but it also to empower, um, decisions that are at best harmful to people in our community, and outside of our community, and at worst are intentionally harmful, right, to folks, just in our communities in general. But I think that the more that we show up for different communities, whether that's LGBTQIA plus folks who feel safe doing so, going to immigrant rallies, or vice versa, I think that there's ways that we can use our numbers um, that will send messages to those in power to say, trans people are estimated to be around 1 to 2% of the US population. But if we have, you know, however many people in the community showing up to support that 1 to 2% of the population, that is a very different feel than just that one community trying to speak up for rights, or basically not be targeted for harassment. And so I think that that's one important point that um, that I think, especially for allies, and not just allies of the LGBTQ community, but if you're an ally to immigrant populations, to migrant workers, to folks that are marginalized in some way, it doesn't have to be, always queer people looking out for queer people. Um, there are like I'm 6'2", and I weigh about 200 pounds ish, give or take. So like I'm a fairly large bodied person, and so I don't feel physically unsafe very often. Like occasionally somebody will be a turd in a bathroom or something like that. And there's really not a lot I can do about that. But for the most part, like I feel relatively secure just kind of in my body as a person who gets to move in the world in that way. And so sometimes when there are folks who maybe are not that privileged, um, I'll show up and just stand with them. And just by virtue of the fact that you've got a 6 foot tall, person standing there, I may not be doing or saying anything, but just being present, watching, noticing, that can change the dynamic of, whether or not somebody may come up to that person and say something rude, or, something may happen. And so I think that there are ways that we can ally with different communities, that are really helpful, and we also have to make sure that we're not doing that in a way that feels unsafe. So if going to an event doesn't feel safe for you, then don't go. That's okay. There's nothing that says every single queer person or every single person from a marginalized community has to show up at everything or every event, or be involved in every rally. I think that actually for and I talked about this a lot back in some previous DEI work that I did, but the work um, of equality and of equity is not a marginalized person's work to do. It's those who hold the privilege and the power. It's their work to do. So, for example, the work of queer liberation is not the work of queer people. It's the work of cisgender folks, probably white as well, hold those positions of power and privilege. They're the ones who need to be creating the spaces and helping us to thrive. Same thing with the BIPOC community. It's not the work of the BIPOC community to make folks less racist or to make places more welcoming. That's our work to do as white people. That's our work that we have to be working on. And so I think that there's moments where we really want to be at every single rally, and we want to go to everything, and we want to be able to show up for folks. If that's safe for you to do it. If it's not, it's okay. And I think giving yourself permission to not insert yourself into unnecessarily, maybe potentially dangerous situations is, give yourself permission not to do that. But at the same time, I think that like a great example would be I've heard some stories of folks of white folks in California who are not of Latino descent putting large like uh, flag stickers in their cars from like Mexico or Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, some of those places that are being targeted by ICE. So they'll put these huge stickers on their cars, and then they get pulled over, and they basically just waste ICE's time. So that's one way of just kind of subverting that system to say, you know what, they're not gonna drag me away because I'm obviously not the type of people that they're targeting. But what I can do is put a sticker on my car so that I waste ICE's time for 15 or 20 minutes while they're trying to, run my plates or whatever. And so I think that there are ways that we can get creative about being allies or marginalized communities in ways that also preserve our sense of safety.
Well said. Ooh, and I love that. I hadn't heard that about the folks in California doing that. sort of like diverting ice or like, yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, there are so many creative ways, right, that we can protest and fight back against these policies and actions of this government. And so,
One,
dang,
I was going to say one other thing I heard about recently was a lady also in the Los Angeles area who basically made it her job to, when she locates ICE vehicles, she just follows them around with a bullhorn out her window, being like, "ICE is here! ICE is here! Everybody go inside!" And and she put up a GoFundMe like a couple weeks ago just for some gas. She's like, "I'm doing a lot more driving, whatever," and she raised like, I think the last time I looked at it was like $90,000 or something, because people are like, "Yeah, go get yourself a new car, go buy yourself some gas," and that's all she's doing is she's just following ICE around with the bullhorn and in English and Spanish, just telling people, "Go inside your homes. ICE is around." And I really wish that I could be a passenger in that car, because I would find that so fulfilling in so many ways. I probably shouldn't be so happy about that, but that makes me really happy to hear
I
that there's
mean,
somebody who's doing that.
yes, I think that's so brilliant. Like, and literally, if you have the ability and the means and a car and a megahorn, like, do that. That's like you're like the community messenger then of safety. And wow, God, I love that. I love people. Like, we are so clever and can be so creative in how we show up and how we take care of each other, and how we just keep building this inclusive community. And I know I could just like keep talking to you for hours and hours because I love and
Absolutely.
appreciate you so much. And we
Same,
are so
same.
grateful to have you on our board and as a part of our leadership here at Trans Northland. So thank you, for taking time
Absolutely.
to join me in this first venture. And then I've got a couple things that we can wrap up on. And one of the things we always want to sort of end these conversations with is letting y'all know about what's coming up in community. And for those
Absolutely.
who Yeah, for those who don't know, one of the things we've been working really hard on for maybe the last year or so now, is our community events calendar. And so that has, obviously we put all of our Trans Northland support groups and events on there as well. But then we're like, I'm always looking for other community events. We have folks who
Mhm.
share them with us, so if you're an organization or a business and you have an event coming up that is like centering queer and trans folks, or wanting us to help get the word out about a safe inclusive space or event, you can definitely get in touch with us on our website, and that's where you can find this events calendar. uh, and so just a couple things I want to highlight that are literally coming up in the next couple days, which are all very exciting things. um, Number one, there's three things. So number one, tomorrow you can come and hang out with us at the Imaginarium in the tea room. If you haven't heard about that, Trans Northland has been partnering with Lifehouse, to have these sort of drop-in hangout hours, and those happen every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. until noon. So we have coffee on, there's tea, there's some snacks, and then we just hang out and chat, or people bring their laptops and they do some work, but it is a really like chill, safe feeling space. So we just want everyone to know that all folks are welcome to come to that, to hang out, allies, LGBTQ plus 2S plus, folks, everyone's welcome. In that space, as long as you're kind and you share our values of community and all of that. And
Yes,
then secondly,
I am intolerant of others' intolerance.
that's it. That's the one. We do reserve
Hmm.
the right to ask you to leave if you're there causing trouble, but we have not had that happen. And so, yeah, secondly, another big first time event, that we are involved in, is the High Cup. And if you have not heard of this yet, I want to give a shout out to Screaming O Sailing. as well as the Duluth Yacht Club, because they have partnered with us as well as the YWCA to put on this like sailboat tournament. And it is a tournament that's going to honor a Duluth community member named Kai, who died about a year ago. And they were very big into sailing, and that was always a big part of their life. And so these folks reached out and they were like, we want to honor them, and we're going to do it every year, and we want to help Trans Northland with this and help us fundraise. And so it's exciting. I'm really pumped. So this Friday, September 12th, you can show up at Earth Rider at 6 p.m. So that's over in Superior. It's an all ages, family friendly event. There'll be a raffle and prizes. We're going to have live music from Sophie Hiroko. And
Nice.
then, yeah, just come on down and hang out with us that night on Friday. And then there's like actual race is happening on Saturday, this Saturday. I believe the start time is 11 a.m., but we've got all those details on the calendar. And then they'll be having like an award ceremony afterwards at the Caddy Shack. And so it's just going to be a really, I think, beautiful time of community coming together to really hold, this person who was lost from our community in our hearts. And I think, for all of us who have lost people, this is just another opportunity to come together and be with folks and feel safe and celebrate queer and trans joy. And then
Absolutely. Sounds
lastly,
great.
right, are you coming up for that? Any of that? I hope you can.
I might have.
Check it out, see if you can. And then lastly, a super exciting thing that I am so happy to highlight is that this coming Sunday, oh no, dang it, I think I looked at the wrong date, but I'm still going to mention it because I believe it just happened this past Sunday. But as an update, Transforming Families is a group, a nonprofit based in the Twin Cities. And we have been in talks with them for, gosh, maybe about a year and a year and a half or so, about bringing a chapter and opening a chapter of Transforming Families here in Duluth. So, yep, you just missed it. This past Sunday, the 7th, they sort of had like an open info meeting. And one of the things that I want to highlight is that they are looking for people who are interested in being trained as facilitators to run their groups. They are specifically looking for trans and gender expansive folks. To do that, you will get paid $75 for every group that you facilitate. And if you're not familiar with them, you can definitely go online and learn more about them at tffmn.org. But just quickly, they do a lot of work with trans and gender expansive youth. So they have groups for littles, like I think 0 to 12, and then they also have groups for the tweens and teens, and all of these groups are facilitated by trans folks. So if you are in Duluth, around here, you're interested, you can get in touch with me and I can connect you, or you could just go onto their website and say, I'm interested, and they will train you and get you all prepared. So we're very, very excited and grateful that Transforming Families is coming up and offering these services because, especially for our little ones, it has been really challenging to help support those families because there's just not any resources up until now. And I will do a quick shout out as well. This is reminding me right around the same time, a community member had reached out to us and they started the Rainbow Families Community Play Group. And they do have an upcoming meeting play group happening on the 21st from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And you can get more info about that too. And that's just for families, whether you're queer, trans parents, or you have queer, trans, gender expansive kids. Or if you're an ally, show up with your family and play on a playground and chat with other parents and have new friends be made. So yes, that is it for upcoming events and details about that. And then lastly, before I sign off, I mentioned at the beginning of this, we are always going to be trying to have different guest stars come on, like amazing Heather. And so I'm just going to tease our upcoming guest for 2 weeks from today. And that will be Nomi Ostrander, amazing, amazing human professor, works up at UMD, is a therapist, does work with trans and queer and all sorts of people. And I'm so psyched to have them join us. Nomi was on our board for quite a while, and so that's sort of how I got to know them. And I am just so grateful to call them my friend and to know about all of the really cool work that they are doing here in this community and beyond. So we'll learn more about Nomi 2 weeks from today. So mark your calendars. You don't want to miss it. And yeah, thanks again to Heather for joining and all of you who've been able to tune in. We're really glad about that. You can follow us here on Facebook for these live Facebook videos. We will also be uploading them to our YouTube channel. So if you're busy at noon on Wednesdays, you can always watch the YouTube video later. So thanks
Hooray.
again, Heather. Anything you want to last words or anything as we sign off?
No, I think you did a great job. Well, actually, maybe I will say one thing. Just be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and take care of each other. That's really that's what we're here for. So reach out if you need anything. Oh, the other thing, can we mention the mutual aid that we have available for folks? That's
Yes, I
one
think
thing
so.
that I think is really been wonderful. We've gotten some donations at Trans Northland for our mutual aid fund. So if you're trans or gender expansive and there's something um, that you need, we give up to $200. So if there's, whether that's for rent or for food or, whatever that looks like, we can certainly help out as we're able. So anything, there's more information about that on our website as well.
Yep, and actually, just to clarify, I don't even think we have the info up there yet
Mm,
because this is so new that we've been able to. One of our amazing board members, Laura, worked really hard on helping us sort of create a program for this, and so we can run it in effective ways, following all the whatever rules and guidelines. But yeah, basically, we want to be able to put money into our community's pockets when you need it most. And so, yes, if you are curious about that, or maybe in a position where you might like to request that, you can get in touch with us at info at transnorthland.org. So, and then, yeah, just thank you to the wonderful folks who are supporting that and giving and donating. And please keep doing that
absolutely.
because we are getting lots of requests and yeah, there's lots of needs out there. So thanks, Heather, for bringing that up because it is like brand spanking new, and we
It
are
is. It
so
is.
excited to be able to like distribute needed resources to our folks and community.
We're like queer Robin Hood, but we're not robbing people.
We're taking gifts and then gifting.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. So yeah, thanks again if you tuned in. We appreciate you. We love this community and we're gonna be back in 2 weeks. So reach out, as Heather said, if you need to connect or want to know about a future event. We're always available for that. And until next time, take good care of yourselves.
Bye, everybody.